plans to launch last week?
I say there shortly. Me, I'd be looking to sell.
At what price?
More. Much, much more.
I don't know who you are or how you know these things, but one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Well, the weather may be aggressive, but we are equally aggressive as we promise you to bring you world-class broadcasting. And I'm getting ready to make sure that in the next couple of minutes, you will be treated to fine morning awesomeness. Mabel, Brian, and Joel Senyonyi all standing by later in the show. Isma Dakabachigongo also join us for the sports update. And of course, Simon Kasiate, who is away in Jinja, may also be joining us. Everything is just being under construction, but you know what? We'll make sure that your morning is fully blessed. My name is Brian, and let's head straight to Mabel, who is standing by at the NTV studios with the stories that are making headlines. But before then, the question of the day. So I definitely look ready and sharp and dapper, like Peter says. And help us answer that simple question. Our Facebook page is Morning at NTV. You can tweet it at Morning at NTV. Stand by also for the stories that are making headlines as you help us answer on our SMS line 6565. Mabel is at the NTV studios. Good morning, Mabel.
Good morning, Brian. Good to have you back. Hope you are feeling much better. And going through the headlines at the moment, in the news we have the police revealing that it has about 2,500 ghosts on its payroll. Parliament adopts Clause 39 of the HIV and AIDS Prevention Control Bill, and corruption stands out most in a just released National Governance Baseline Survey.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome to Morning at NTV. My name is Mabel Kebirunji. The police force has revealed that it has about 2,500 ghosts on its payroll. General Kale Kaihura, who heads the institution, revealed this while appearing before the Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs. Kaihura, alongside a team of senior officers, was appearing before the committee to defend the police budget.
Government recently decentralized the payroll of all government workers as a move to rid the payroll of ghosts. The situation, which is prevalent across government departments, has not spared the police force. Police Chief General Kale Kaihura told the Defense Committee that the police force has unearthed over 2,500 ghosts on its payroll.
The results were returned. Still, a section of some of those officers were not present and were not accounted for. We took a decision to delete them from the payroll.
And this totaled to about 2,995. Now,
those are ghosts.
Suspected to be. Now, in that process, only about 400 turned up with explanations.
This was after lawmakers on the committee tasked Kaihura over why junior officers continue to go without salaries.
Case in point of a person I've been following for a very long time. Somebody called Iranya, Christopher. And Iranya must not be victimized. This one goes to Bangrana. We need a list of the police who have not been paid. Give us. And we want to see whether your name, General Kaihura, is among them.
General Kaihura was also questioned over the recent intelligence leaks posted on social media, recordings which cast him as a regime apologist.
On which vote is this money that is in the media? You can have 5, the people are using Kweyozake Mfufu. On which budget is that money? You were about to arrest Jacqueline Mbabazi, one of the beneficiaries of those stolen tapes. But you ended up arresting only the policeman. So can you be given an update on the beneficiaries of that stealing?
But General Kale declined to comment on the matter, saying the issue are before the courts of law. Earlier on, Butambala MP Mwanga Chivumbi put General Kaihura on the spot for offering lawmakers money on a recent trip to Somalia, yet they are facilitated by the House.
I want to know where you got money to finance members of parliament on a trip to Somalia, yet we can duly be paid for by this parliament.
Which vote?
And on which vote? Because it touches on the integrity of parliament. We oversee you and ask you questions. You can't be the same group at the same time that you fund us. And the speaker made a ruling to that effect. So we want you to know, if you fail to do that, you will be required you to make good of that money, because that is wastage of public resources.
Kaihura still remained tight-lipped on the matter and preferred to defend the police budget of 395 billion shillings.
We have more numbers coming in. We have to have, the ranks must be created to manage this force, and we require money.
Jingo Francis, NTV, Parliament.
Ugandan ghosts never cease to amaze me. Well, Parliament has adopted Clause 39 of the HIV and AIDS Prevention and Control Bill that seeks to punish persons who attempt to transmit HIV. Anybody who attempts to transmit HIV to another person commits a felony, and if convicted shall be liable to a fine of not more than 12 currency points or jail time of not more than 5 years. The legislators also agreed on Clause 40 that seeks to send a health worker to prison for 5 years if he or she breaches confidentiality and discloses one's HIV status. Amendments to the 49-page bill that seeks to prevent, control and reduce the transmission of HIV in Uganda continue today.
This clause was unanimously passed. The ministry had reservations on that clause because, as you know, we thought when you criminalize, merely attempting to pass on HIV/AIDS to a person, sounded broad. But late, after listening to the various discussions, I think we are comfortable since it will be subjected to a process.
But my only disappointment is that the currency points, 12 currency points, when every currency point is 20,000 shillings, that translates in 240,000. That's very little. So we are going to move that we rescind that decision, because the number of years not exceeding 5 years in prison, that one is okay.
Every punishment should be given because this person is aware that he or she is infected and goes ahead intentionally to transmit to another person. And that's a very dangerous person that can easily confuse the whole community and finish people.
We as a committee will think that this, first of all, one will be very, very difficult to prove in the course of law to establish the ingredient of the application of attempted transmission. Secondly, we think that this will discourage many people from testing and establishing the HIV/AIDS status. Why? Because their established status will be used against them.
Medical officers are supposed to abide by the ethical code of conduct. They are supposed to maintain confidentiality. And of course, the purpose of this, the proposal in this bill is to deter doctors from being rumor mongers, disclosing information that they are not supposed to disclose at different places, in bars and so on.
An out-of-school children's study by Strom Foundation in East Africa shows that Uganda has one of the highest school dropout rates at primary level globally. Of every 300 pupils, only 33 finish school. As Florence Naluyimba reports, poverty stands out as a major barrier.
Now, 2015 is not so far away, and one of the Millennium Development Goals, actually one of the top 2 of education, whereby every child, boy or girl, is supposed to complete primary education, seems like it's not going to be achieved for Uganda, because currently 7 out of every 10 pupils that you see will not complete primary education. The high rate of school dropouts continues to worry educationists.
We know, but we couldn't know really what are the factors. We could just guess, so we wanted the scientific proof.
The proof has come in a report, Out of School Children Study in Uganda by Strom Foundation East Africa.
We thought this study would be good to inform the policymakers.
In the Out of School Children Study, reasons for dropout range from inadequate funds at almost 80%, domestic work at 75%, 25% dropout to tend to family business, 28% have no interest, 19% because of overcrowded classrooms, and 16% due to failure of exams or repeating classes. According to the Bureau of Statistics 2012 report, 1 of every 5 children has never enrolled in school. Some households, about 58%, stated the lack of money was the main reason. 25% cite domestic work, 21% long distances to school, 20% said pupils' lack of interest, while others, 16%, said physical and mental stability got in the way.
When a nation's education is not improving, there's little we can do towards development.
Another daunting fact in the report is the fact that in primary 6, only 5 of every 10 are literate.
Several decades ago, we learned that someone could as well stop at P6 and be effective in the community. So something is going wrong somewhere. One, children should be encouraged. We should go back to the reading culture.
We always come up with these great ideas, but the big issue we continue to grapple with is implementing.
Parents have been encouraged to prioritize education since some of the reasons rotate around the pull factors in the homes. The report was done by Strom Foundation East Africa in conjunction with UNICEF, Save the Children Uganda, ERIC Foundation, as well as the Ministry of Education and Sports. Florence Alimba, NTV.
Corruption and the violation of human rights stand out most in a just-released National Governance Baseline Survey. The report further points out that Cabinet rarely consults the nation when it comes to matters of national importance. Morris reports on a survey that shows a decline in the performance of the government.
The National Governance Baseline Survey Report for the year 2013-2014, released by Uganda Bureau of Statistics and Makerere School of Statistics, focuses on democracy and human rights. The role of the survey is to help the government make adjustments.
We wanted to hear the voices of the people concerning their appreciation of government's contribution to the services that it's delivering.
The survey used voting as a measure of political participation, and it found that most people in urban areas do not trust the Electoral Commission, especially those from Western Uganda. Most of the parliamentarians use bribes when it comes to election period to win votes. Condemns district leaders for not consulting ordinary people before making decisions. The National Governance Survey also used democracy as a measure of democracy and decentralization. In this area, the report shows that 56.9% of those asked around Uganda say Cabinet does not respect the rule of law. 72.5% say government adheres to the rule of law in delivery of services. On matters to do with human rights, 95.5% agree that local councils and the Uganda police are the institutions known to offer justice. Respondents in Kampala say human rights are not respected in Uganda. Legislators had mixed reactions to these findings, especially in regard to accusations of bribery.
If, for instance, you are going to send out your campaigners, you need to facilitate them with fuel, you need to give them airtime, you need to give them some soda. So I don't know whether that is translated into a bribe or giving a bribe, but I would think it is facilitation.
I can see the trend
is not just going to end, but it is worsening. And I think we need to reflect as a country and see what can be done.
Now, it begs the question to really see whether this report shall really add any more value, since the people who are affected are not seen. Maurice Ochol, NTV.
Police have appealed to the clergy and worshippers to put in place measures at churches and mosques to avert terrorist attacks. This comes after the U.S. Embassy in Kampala this week issued a terror alert to its citizens, warning of a strike on worship places by the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab. Churches and mosques have been asked to install CCTV cameras.
The latest terror alerts by the U.S. Embassy suggest that places of worship could be targeted by the Al-Qaeda-linked terrorists. Police is encouraging worship places to install CCTV cameras if they are to forestall such attacks.
A church that has already installed a system that can easily see what is taking place from the right to go, from when people come in and when people leave.
This comes barely after the police force hired experts from Germany to train its personnel in forensic photography to aid the gathering of evidence to combat crime and terrorism.
It's not just only taking somebody's photograph, but it is just taking photograph with, as a process of trying to know what somebody is trying to do. It can even interpret your mind.
Churches in neighboring Kenya have come under a series of attacks by the Al-Shabaab insurgents. We carried out a spot visit to some churches to evaluate the level of security preparedness.
We use trained ushers and sometimes police.
Church leaders expressed concern of the type of congregation, which is notoriously fickle.
They come and leave in just 2 weeks.
On July 11, 2010, Al-Shabaab insurgents carried out twin attacks in Kampala, which resulted in the death of over 70 people.
I would like to see that camera that can tell what I am thinking. Well, moving on, a group of sex workers and women rights activists have filed a petition at the Constitutional Court challenging the recently passed Anti-Pornography Act 2014. The activists claim that the act contravenes the right to dignity, personal liberty, and freedom from cruel treatment, among others. The petitioners said as a result of this draconian law, 44 women have been undressed by mobs.
Human rights activists and a group of sex workers have filed a constitutional petition challenging the constitutionality of the recently passed Anti-Pornography Act 2014. One of the clauses of the act prohibits females from wearing garments which are below the knee. Led by the founder of Women's Organization Network for Human Rights, Professor Sylvia Tamale, who is also a law don, says the law is vague.
So the one declaration is one, to say that the act is inconsistent with the Constitution, and two, declarations that, orders that the minister should be restrained from issuing regulations to effect the act.
The activists claim that the act describes pornography in a patriarchal way, therefore they want some of the clauses scrapped off. However, some of the petitioners are sex workers who are trading in an illegal business according to the Penal Code Act.
For us to look attractive and beautiful, we need to be in short clothes.
The petitioners are questioning the legality of Section 15, Clause 1, which they say gives excessive powers to police to search, seize property, and arrest individuals engaged in pornographic acts.
And this is an unwarranted intrusion by the state in affairs that it shouldn't be regulated.
We've not seen where men have also been actually stripped naked, and yet also men have really dressed in a way that excites the women as well.
The activists further argue that the act discriminates against women.
The act is likely to deny women control over their own bodies and access to public spaces.
At Wanetha, we believe that no woman is free until all women are free.
The Constitutional Court has not yet fixed a date to commence hearing this case. Sudil Biarhanga, NTV.
And that's all we had for you in today's morning bulletin. Time now for the press review. Brian and Joel standing by. Brian, what do we have on the back page of today's red paper?
Well, thank you, Mabel. It's definitely very cold up on the rooftop, and we definitely could use lots of coffee this morning. And I'm still under the weather, but hopefully by the end of the day, I should be fine. Well, the back page of the Red Pepper is talking about a team that has definitely seen one of its worst seasons ever, and that is Manchester United. And they are saying, who needs Rooney right now, since there's a blazing youngster called Wilson who netted 2 goals just a day before. And
maybe Arsenal needs Rooney. Wouldn't you make some very good use of him? You guys have been pounded for quite a bit. And now
I guess Rooney can come and help us, you know, win the FA Cup. We can sign him. You
don't have money. You don't have money. You're a very broke lot. They don't even
before we get there, and so the 18-year-old debutant called James Wilson is definitely threatening Wayne Rooney's position. We'll be talking that and more in the press review coming up. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. It's 20 after 7, and if you're stuck in your bed, sleeping, or just being lazy and sent a message to your boss that you won't work because the water has literally blocked your house, good for you, bad for us. Things are...
Yeah, we have to be here nonetheless. I bumped into somebody the other day who told me, Joel, you people are going to put me into trouble. I get late to my workplace. I keep giving excuses to my boss. I told him, okay, what do you give us your boss's number? We'll call him and apologize on our behalf. I want to assume there are probably a good number of other people that way.
Right.
But get to work and tell your boss to buy you a TV. The Daily Monitor here reports the president is saying nobody can order me on South Sudan. He says he's restored core stability in South Sudan, so no country, not even the US, should tell him when or where not to deploy UPDF troops.
Isn't this a very arrogant statement from the president?
I am surprised that you're surprised.
No,
he's a gentleman that digs in his heels. He does not like being lectured in public, especially. UPDF is a strong army, and we have pacified our neighbors in very many ways, you know. The issue of South Sudan is still a hard nut to crack because we are being hammered really there, you know. Riek Machar is quite strong a man compared to even Salva Kiir, the president, but it's a story we need to
Are we seeing the president paying back for after the failure of Riek Machar having been literally chief mediator in the talks that never happened? And so the president thinks Riek must have been, you know, back channeling everything.
Well, maybe, but maybe not. You see, Salva Kiir is a weak president, so to say, and when you have a weak president, he is voluntary. I mean, he's in many ways going to be hounded by guys all over the place, because Riek Machar, even though we see him as a rebel right now, he's a guy who's very strong, and that's why they're
very charismatic.
You know what? Can you get to the talking table and get to discuss these issues? It's still a hard one to crack, because he does not want to play second fiddle like he has been playing all this while. He wants the presidency.
Well, I guess you're not in position to say this, but what are your expectations for the talks tomorrow? The two are meeting in Ethiopia to find a way forward, and people are saying that Riek is likely not to appear.
Yeah, he does not want to, because he's thinking, why should I am going to hammer this guy, you know. he thinks that way, but they should talk. They should talk. Either way, at the end of the day, it is their people that suffer, you know. So many times you give up your ego and say, look, I might not get exactly what I want, but let's talk so that we can resolve this amicably, and hopefully they get to do that. Now, General Kalechi Kayihura has been sued over NRM youth. There's a gentleman called Rogers Besigye who says the police chief assumed the powers of the NRM disciplinary committee by convening, hearing, and offering solutions to NRM party disputes.
Well, the police boss assumed the powers of an investigative officer and
of the NRM. Investigating
what crime was investigating? He investigated the chaos caused by the NRM youth. But I think for me, I'm seeing a conflict of interest, obviously. If he has orders from his boss to investigate this, and
President Museveni,
how do you draw the line between being a police boss and also being a member of the NRM?
And that's what we need to do. We need to do it. Of course, like you're saying, it is hard, but we have got to do it, you know, for posterity for this country. You talk about His Excellency being Kaihura's boss. He is his boss as the president, not as NRM party chairman, and we need to see a very clear distinction.
But he is, if Kale Chase, if Kale...
That's his name, that's his name,
well,
don't worry.
If I'm used to Kale, if Major General Kale Kaihura is a member of the NRM, he's now full general now, if he's a member of the NRM, the president is still his boss.
But you see, when you decide to put on this uniform that he's wearing this morning of the Uganda Police Force, which they want to metamorphose into the Uganda Police Service, you have got to be seen to be neutral. On the inside of you, you probably pay allegiance. You cannot take that out of, I mean, from the inside of you, but you have gone to be seen.
Can't we assume that the NRM decided to hand this over to the police, and so Kale was acting on behalf of the police,
which is wrong,
investigating for the NRM?
If it is a criminal matter, yes, even FDC should run to the police if there are some happenings within their party, you know. But issues of this one wants to take my position and that kind of thing, that's too political. We don't want to see, you know, police getting involved in this.
Well, Joel, related to the police yesterday, a shocking revelation where more than 2,500 ghost police officers were discovered on the payroll. And this one, Daily Monitor says actually 3,000 have been deleted from the police payroll. The IGP, General Kale, ordered professional standards. You need to carry out a head count exercise. Because he's saying, I'm out there in the operations. I don't see men. But in the books, I have numbers.
We have mastered the art of reaping where we have not sown. And I think General Kaihura needs to explain this. Him and his generals.
Can't you just give him a thumbs up for finally, you know, coming out and doing something about the police? He asked professional standards unit to do this, but to find out why on paper he has a lot of numbers, but in the operations he has fewer men.
You see, for him to come out and begin crying foul, we are not going to empathize with him. He is you know, responsible, solely responsible, well, not solely, but he's the head of the police force. You know, it's just like if His Excellency the President came out and said, you know what, I've got ghost ministers, and he begins crying out to us. I'm thinking, no. Right. You are responsible for that. You should have taken care of that.
It should never have started. It should never have started.
At all. You know, if anything, he should be repenting and not crying foul, saying, look, we have ghost soldiers.
What if the people that he trusts to help him run this? You people are always against micromanaging, so he decides to give a few roles to a couple of his men, and then they create all.
And we don't want him to micromanage. There's such a thing as systems, and as a leader, all you keep tabs on are the systems, not, you know, on literally every individual. So probably that shows that he's not being a very good leader. Right. Perhaps could it be because he's spending more time working as the NRM police boss as opposed to the Uganda's police boss.
Oh, Joel.
I have
you can read the details of that story in the Daily Monitor on page 4. The other story, Uganda, second best place in East Africa for mothers.
That shows you how badly off we are doing. Well, we are second to Rwanda. First, our mothers still go through a lot in this country. On a daily basis, we lose 16 mothers who are trying to give birth. That should not happen. At all. These mothers are trying to give life. Their lives should not be taken away in the process, you know. We need to do a lot more. And you see, it goes to show for what kind of health sector we do have in this country. The health centers deep in the villages that only have one nurse. There is one, I think it is in a parish or even bigger. Had only one nurse who also resigned. Why? Because, you know, conditions for her to work down there are not favorable. We need to do something about it.
Well, while Uganda is the second best place in East Africa for mothers, it's also one of the 35 worst places for mothers. You can get the stories in the Daily Monitor, details of that story.
Kaihura has actually ordered for the arrest of 2 police officers in Luwero, those who tear gas opposition politicians and their supporters. And the lizard here is interesting. The lizard is saying, so what happens to the tear gas that is in stock?
That will be used.
They are arresting. He has suspended them for using tear gas, firing tear gas at the opposition.
Yesterday I was not around. I don't know if you and Simon talked about this, about the capacity of police to purchase now helicopters to deal with anti-riot, you know.
Helicopters.
Yes.
Let's first pay our police officers better. You know, let's first improve their housing. Let's first improve their salaries before we you know, gallivant all over the place talking about helicopters for the police
But the
force.
police officers are the ones going to operate these helicopters.
Yeah, and then they go back home, they don't have food on their table, they go back home, they're entering this mama ingia pole that is leaking. It does not help them in any way.
Can they put their...
It does not matter if you come here and you sit in very executive chairs and I don't know what, then you go back to your place and things are tight. It does not help you in any way.
Well, the other story, Joel, in the Daily Monitor, MPs face a visa ban over gays legislation. Is this a surprise? Should this even be news? Did they expect this?
I hope they did expect it, because you see, as we did, you know, get this bill together and eventually have it assented to, we should have known the ramifications, and there will be more, yeah, but we should brace ourselves for them. This is a decision we decided to take. As a country, we don't want anybody else to tell us how to run this place. They can advise, but at the end of the day, we call the shots, yeah, so we should be ready for this and a lot more.
All right. What's the other story in the Daily Monitor?
There's something I have seen here. This is in Heart to Heart. And they're asking, are men afraid of smart women, intelligent women? Your wife is a smart lady. Very smart. Are you afraid of her?
No.
You're equally smart, eh?
I'm equally smart, but but I guess for men who are not confident, a smart woman can definitely challenge them. And I know some women who have overstepped their boundaries, where they
I think I like a smart woman. I don't want a dumb woman. The challenge there is not that this lady is smart or whatever the case might be. Is that, you see, men we have an inherent ego on the inside of us, and it's a good thing.
Smart women don't understand that.
Well used, but you see, women need to be careful not to trample on these men's egos. You know, that is when now you can do to the man anything else, you know, but leave his ego intact. So let's have the smart ladies. We want them. You know, I'd like to sit and have some kind of
intelligent conversation.
There you have it. You know, with my lady, as we do whatever it is that we are doing. But there are boundaries, like you're saying. You know, keep to your turf. Honor this man. Men love respect, a lot of it, and women, they want to be loved, you know. And we may not understand you women much of the day. Women are not meant to be understood. They're meant to be loved.
Whoa! You are going to get some beating on social media.
On social media, bring it on.
We'll focus on our very own Rachel Mwine with the husband, who have just been married a couple of months ago, and they're saying marriage does need a lot of sacrifice. Maybe this is for Joel, who definitely may need it in the future.
What, you mean I'm scared of making sacrifices?
So, no, I have learned in marriage that, you know, it's true what they say. It's marriage is for very, you know, grown-up people.
This guy is abusing me.
No.
So what are you saying?
No, I'm not abusing you.
Yeah, but I've seen some married people who are very immature. They probably look like they got into this thing over in a haste and that kind of thing. I was picking a bone with some married people. You know, that people who have decided to make it their project to keep asking me when I married, you know, to keep saying, no, there's this one, what is one? And I've been telling them, look, nobody ever went to hell because they were single. I will marry when I want, and I will marry who I want.
You stop controlling your passion, you'll get married.
You better stop controlling my passion.
But the Bible tells you if you can't control your passion, then you get married.
So I should get married just because of passion?
Joel, that's another day for that discussion. But of course, if you're married, you know, we are all a work in progress.
Without a doubt. And marriage is a good thing. I'm not in any way trying to denigrate marriage. I think it's a good thing, but people should not be pushed into this thing as if, I don't know, as if it's the best thing that ever happened to humanity.
In a couple of weeks, we should be talking about the people expect you to be successful the moment you get married. And Mabel was talking about it a couple of weeks ago also, that if, you know, everywhere she goes, people ask her, are you married? Then when she says no, they're like,
what is wrong with you? Can we help in any way?
Moving on to the red pepper. Museveni fires General Tumine from the Awards Committee, and it's now being headed by his brother, who said he will quit. Now, they're giving this man more work before he resigns. Before we know it, he'll not be resigning.
Who are you talking about? General Tumine?
General Saleh.
Look, General Saleh is not resigning. Well, he's probably just letting go of certain responsibilities and taking over a few others, like you're saying. The other day we had General Tumine here. He is a beleaguered man in some ways, you know, with the issues to do with normal gallery, etc., etc. But he should carry his course, somebody was telling me the other day. Because, I think when someone asked him, about Nomogara, and then he said, I don't want to comment on that nonsense. And people are thinking, no, it's not exactly nonsense. We need to see some kind of accountability.
All right. And in the red paper, a couple of, letters. Of course, Lupita Nyong'o here, but a way to help ladies get their skin silky, smooth, shining, and healthy.
Yeah, a friend of mine teases me to have a Kamovit skin. I said, kweli. Of all things.
How does that look like?
I don't know. Maybe like mine. But, it's odd when ladies expect that men are not supposed to take care of themselves, have a facial every once in a while.
Yeah.
I find that bizarre.
They call men who look smart, they say we're playing for the other team.
For the other team.
Yeah.
When you're a little bit organized and that kind of thing.
So I guess women are also threatened by men who look nice.
Let them deal with it.
And the Daily Monitor also focusing on this. Men are threatened by women that earn more.
Yeah, there is a bit of that. But again, it gets back to the issue of, yes, she earns more, but does she look at you as the leader? It doesn't. But I know a friend of mine who at some point was earning less than the wife. Whenever they would go out, she'd pull out the money and give it to the man, and the man would pay the waiter. They said, okay, that's brilliant. She was just honoring her man. Probably something some ladies need to do out there.
Well, the Daily Monitor, you can grab a copy of the Daily Monitor there, out of the red paper, and get the details of the stories that are making headlines. We just go through them, give you a tidbit, but go and purchase this paper. A press review is, of course, continuing with Mabel. What is making headlines in the stories on the international scene?
Well, thank you very much, Brian. On the international scene, on Reuters on the front page, we have Vietnam saying yesterday that a Chinese vessel intentionally rammed into 2 of its ships as part of the disputed South China Sea, in that part of the sea, actually, where Beijing has deployed a giant oil rig, sending tensions spiraling in the region. And on CNN Trends, we still have Monica Lewinsky talking about her affair with the president, the former president, and Angelina Jolie saying she thought she would never act again. Also on the CNN page, we have 150 being reportedly killed by the Boko Haram insurgents. And this is the latest in a series of attacks and abductions of schoolgirls attributed to the group. On the BBC Africa page, we have Malala pleading over the Nigeria schoolgirls. She says these girls are actually her sisters. Now, Malala is the Pakistani girl who was shot in the head but survived. And to me, she's a true inspiration. Also making news is ANC taking an early lead in the vote count in South Africa's polls. The ANC has polled over 56% of the 20% of the ballots that have been counted. And more than 50,000 malnourished children in Somalia are at death's door. Now, this is very interesting. Roger Federer is a father to a second set of twins. The boys are called Leo and Lenny, younger brothers to his twin daughters Myla and Shalane. Here is Roger Federer with his wife, and we have the wife here with the daughters. Again, I think he should let us know the secret on having different sets of twins, boys, girls, and I mean, you just do the job once and voila! That's all we had for you in the press review. We shall be taking a short break, but the big story will continue.
Every idea we have begins with you. The way you connect.
Good morning.
How you browse. How you share. And how you interact with the world around you.
Your relationship with your God is the most important thing. Have a company of people who have got a similar mindset.
How do you want people to think, feel, and act after your talk? In other words, what's your objective?
You inspire everything. Because in the end, innovation doesn't really matter unless it does something that really matters to you. And we are HTC.
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired the President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fiscal court targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only the two individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
Ekifo ekimu kissa wamusu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli Lwakuna butereevu ku NTV akawungeezi.
Bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired the President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fiscal court targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only the two individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Thank you for waking up with us this Thursday morning. We do hope your morning is good. And time for the big story today. Whom do we have on the big story, Joel?
Thanks a bunch, Mabel. The big story is coming up. Uganda was declared food secure. Now, I know many people might find that a bit difficult to believe, with many people going without food. We'll seek to understand what happens with the disparities. Some places have plenty of food in these country for that matter. Others have literally nothing. What happens along the way? We'll discuss that on the big story in a bit. Good morning and welcome to the big story. My name is Joel Senyonyi. Now, not too long ago, Uganda was declared food secure, and we are told Uganda has capacity to actually feed not just the region, but the whole of Africa. That sounds like good news, but not very good news to people, for example, in eastern Uganda, to parts of northern Uganda, that are starving, that go without food, not for a day, but for days, and sometimes weeks, and they end up eating what? Roots. They're told to eat mangoes and things of the sort. What happens along the way? My guest this morning is Beatrice Byarugabash is Commissioner Crop Production. You're welcome, madam.
Thank you.
Uganda is declared a food secure country, and many people will find that very hard to believe, because there are parts in this particular country where people starve for days. There's famine hitting places real bad, and by the time we come to their aid, some have lost their lives. There are people that are badly malnourished. Food secure, how does that happen?
Thank you for this very important question. Actually, Uganda is food secure generally and comparatively when you compare with the African region, especially in the East African region. Uganda is able to produce its own food, and we have variety of foodstuffs, and almost every household produces food. In fact, even people who are in gainful employment, people who are even doing commerce, they always go home to produce food to supplement what they are doing. Comparatively, our weather is good. In fact, when you are flying in the region in Africa, where as soon as you see green, you know that that is Uganda. We have favorable weather, the rainfall is sufficient, and our soils are still good generally. We have a variety of foodstuffs, and that is where maybe the food security is. We produce maize, we produce beans.
Some of which we export into countries like
Yes,
Kenya, you know, DRC,
we
Rwanda,
produce
South
bananas,
Sudan.
we produce nuts, cassava, yams, vegetables, plenty of potatoes, plenty of fruits. Recently, we are even producing rice. So really, as far as food security as a nation, we are okay.
Does it bother you as Commissioner Crop Production and Marketing that you are marketing our food to South Sudan, to DRC, to Rwanda, which is not a bad thing? We should send food to these people, we earn some money out of it. But here is the issue. Many Ugandans in this country starve and they go without food, but we are doing a very good job marketing this food elsewhere. Why are we failing to ensure that there is absolute food security? I do not believe that there is total food security in this country. People are going hungry and some are actually starving to death.
So, you know, we have a policy of liberalized markets, and the marketing is spearheaded by the private sector. So the private sector are looking for where the profit is. So we are happy and glad that we are able to feed our region, especially the neighboring countries. Internally, we have some areas of food shortage, not really famine. It is food shortage because it is for some seasons, a few seasons, a month or two, because of some bad weather, prolonged drought, or maybe some floods. But the government has put in place some interventions.
What are those interventions?
Like in the Karamoja region, that's where we mainly get prolonged droughts, and government has excavated dams, many dams. Now we have plenty of water, and the Kalimajongo are no longer migrating. At least they can now stabilize and water their livestock. In fact, even the rainfall has improved. They are now growing crops. Research has done tremendous work. They have come up with some crop varieties that are able to tolerate drought. In that region, we are targeting to produce sorghum, cassava, pigeon peas, even maize, quick maturing maize. They can produce their own food now. They always have some food shortage when they experience some prolonged drought. But currently, also they are able to feed themselves. But maybe what government does, working with our partners, especially World Food Program, is to get food from the other regions where we have surplus and then take to areas where we have shortage.
We don't seem to see that happening a great deal. Actually, that is the biggest issue, because like you say, we've got plenty of food in this country, but these regions that actually throw away food that gets rotten along the way, and then there are others that are starving. You say for a month or two, I feel even a week is long enough.
It is.
And I'm thinking, why are we failing to transport this food, you know, putting in place infrastructure to ensure that where there is plenty, we can save off and take to some of these areas that do not have. We don't see much of that happening as it should.
So most people have coping mechanisms. If they don't have food crops, they would have livestock, because in Karamoja they have livestock, they have milk, they have meat. But maybe it's to organize the private sector to make sure that they look for internal markets where they are, because they can sell livestock and buy food crops. But now as a nation, we are trying to put up food reserves. In fact, our ministry has been tasked to put some food reserves so that instead of exporting everything outside the country, we'll be having food reserves to cater for our own internal deficits. Some regions where there are a bit of deficits. But it has not come to a critical stage.
Oh, really? I would want to know when exactly these food reserves are going to be in place. This debate has been on for years, for as long as I can remember. We are going to have food reserves in place, just like we talk about fuel reserves. Each time we need the fuel, that is when we are cleaning them up. Well, that's not your docket, but getting to the issue of food reserves.
Yes.
We've talked about this for quite a while. You are promising that government is saying we're going to have food reserves in place. I would want to see this happening. We have had the talk. Where is the action?
So what we have been having are warehouses where some private sector produce dealers store there. They actually just collect the food for export. But now government wants to partner with them.
Without a doubt, because you see, these private individuals are interested in business.
Yes.
If Sudan can pay better for their produce, they'll take the food there and Ugandans will starve. That is where you as the government, you come in.
So this process is on. We already have, we have already written the projects. We even have investors who are interested to help us. So very soon we are going to be having these food reserves. Kenya has them, Rwanda has them.
Uganda does not.
Because we have not been having,
we
have not been having really critical food deficits. But just as a way of making sure that maybe World Food Program doesn't have to go and buy food from outside, we are going to have them.
But that's what happens anyway, whenever we have scarcity here. Let's talk about something, genetically modified foods. That debate is still on, and I don't know if you are concerned, that we're having these GMs that are coming into this country, and in many ways they are going to debilitate, if you like, our farmers, because some of these seedlings cannot be replanted. That means we need to keep running back to the likes of Monsanto and the rest to keep buying these seedlings. We are disempowering our farmers. Are you as the government concerned about this? Even though we are saying, all right, these ones, they can endure the weather, they produce a lot more within a short while. That is good, but if we are to think long term, it's probably not as good as it looks.
Okay. We are going to look at it from two different perspectives. For our local small farmers, we are saying that they can continue using the open pollinated varieties. They are not very high yielding when you compare to what you are talking about, but they are liked. But I also want to take you a little bit behind. When government introduced through research the hybrids, people are very skeptical. They were saying that these hybrids, because also hybrids, you cannot plant them more than twice. You always have to go back and get the new seed. But farmers have adopted them because of their, their advantage. They are very high yielding. If you are going into commercial agriculture, you cannot keep, using these other local varieties. You have to go to a variety that is high yielding, that is going to give you better returns. Now, to answer your question specifically on the GMO. GMOs, they started a long time ago, way back. In the developed countries, they were also conscious. They started by using GMOs on conifer. I think in Canada, they started using it on trees because for them they grow, forestry trees for lumbering. So they started putting it on conifer to reduce the, maturity period, maybe from 20 years to 10 years. Then from there they went to cotton. So they are being conscious until science and technology was developed enough to, to ensure that they can now do it in foodstuffs. So whenever you travel outside and you go to hotels, you are eating GMO. And I want to say that
not very healthy anyway.
I'm going to say that these people in the developed countries, they are health conscious.
Are they more healthy than we are? They are suffering from lots more diseases, obesity and the like, heart failure. You find children 16 years old getting heart failure, and we do not want to have that in this country.
Bad feeding habits, not really because of GMO. So what I'm trying to say is that here GMO, it has not been cleared to be used. We are waiting for the parliament to put in place a law how we can regulate the GMOs. But I want to say that maybe even now we could be having it in these manufactured, imported, foods, the baby foods, the juices, the canned food that you are having around. This food for the elite. So maybe we may not be having it, producing it here, but we may be consuming it. So now we need the law. We need the law to help us to regulate. But GMO itself is not bad, but has to be very well regulated to make sure that it does not, impinge on our own local varieties.
The other issue of concern is when we do produce whatever it is that we produce, the issue of adding quality, value addition. We don't seem to see that. We export raw, food to all these countries around, and yet if we did add some value, we'd get a lot more, returns than we are currently getting. That is a very critical issue. In fact, we have been exporting grain, and in exporting grain, we lose maybe especially when it is maize, we are losing the maize bran. Maize bran can be used in manufacturing animal feeds. So government now is putting in place a concerted effort in making sure that we process and export processed products, and we leave the bioproducts here. That is a very, very critical concern. Areas of Karamoja, Luengo, we earlier on did say, you're saying that government is putting in place these dams, and we've had their leaders coming out again and again saying, you know what, we have been neglected by the government in this particular case. Whenever there is, you say our situation is not that critical as compared to Kenya. Maybe I should believe it's not that critical as it is in Kenya, but it is critical, and looking forward, of course, now we're talking about having laws in place, etc., etc. You say the private sector is the one pushing this, but we should be concerned as a government about these our people, and beginning to plan for that matter. I'm aware you've got very good plans on your shelves that are not being implemented. Typical of the way we do things in this country. We pile up policies and, they accumulate dust, and then we're not implementing these things. Okay, I will answer the first question of developing the water in Karamoja, in Ruengo, in all the dry areas, especially the cattle corridor. Government partnering with the other development partners, we have now earth-moving equipment, heavy equipment that can be used by farmers to excavate dams and increase watering points. Because of climate change, we cannot keep saying that we are, we are better off. We are seeing change, so we have to plan for the change. Does it? So government really has now imported, machinery, and it is continuing to import more machinery. But also the private sector is encouraged because farmers are ready even to pay for the technologies, for the machines, for the facilities to excavate their own water, especially the farmers who are really into commercial, farming. Besides the machines for water and the like, we have people that have acres of land, but, agriculture is not as mechanized as it should be in this country. People are still using hoes, they're using rudimentary equipment to farm, and we are looking at exporting our produce to the whole of Africa. How's that going to happen if we are not investing as we should? Of course, you're saying the private sector needs to push this, but it should be our concern as a country. How are we coming in to do this to ensure that we mechanize agriculture, use less labor and produce a lot more, not just for our country, but even export beyond? So government has put in place conducive environment for the private sector to invest. Now we are talking with the private sector. We are trying to bring in place modalities of availing these tractors and mechanization, all form of farm power and equipment, by introducing and supporting leasing of this equipment. We are talking to banks so that people can go and get the lease and go and do business into mechanization. But we are also saying that when farmers are organized, like the cooperatives, government can guarantee them to get this equipment. So we're actually doing something about it, either working with private sector or working on projects. So government is not sitting. The other concern, of course, is high cost of production. Farmers are grappling with this, and that is why the returns are not coming in. And yes, I know many times people want to run to government for help and that kind of thing. We should be able, in our own individual ways, be able to ameliorate ourselves, But at the end of the day, we've got this father called government. We pay taxes to it, and therefore it's supposed to ensure that things are leveled, things are made a little bit fairer for these farmers. They have made noise and made noise. Challenge with them, of course, is they are not as organized. That means they cannot put forward a very strong voice before government and say, look, you need to deal with this, you need to deal with this other issue. You do not seem to be addressing the concerns of these farmers as you adequately should, because at the end of the day, government does benefit anyway as it collects taxes. It does. Actually, we are concerned. Now, what we are promoting is intensification of agriculture.
as a way of mitigating the labor problem that you are talking about, the manpower. You have a small piece of land, as almost all our farmers are. They are small landholders. So we are looking at using technology that can enhance productivity. We are talking of using improved seeds and stocks. We are talking of using fertilizers, small-scale irrigation, so they can really produce on a very small piece of land instead of expanding. So for the tractors, people who have expansive land, they can use the tractors, but the majority of our farmers may not need tractors. They actually may need the small, tillers, small implements, and not really big tractors.
Irrigation in this country has not been taken that seriously, even though we should take it. Yeah, we keep talking about us having the rain, but it's not as consistent as it should. Sometimes it pounds a lot more. There are areas that do not have enough as they should. Dry areas like Egypt are beating us at this. Are we in any way investing in this? Because as we do irrigation, we are able to produce some more, quite a bit more than we should.
Actually, the government has put a lot of money on irrigation. We have rehabilitated most of the irrigation schemes. We have the Ministry of Agriculture, in collaboration with the Ministry of Water and Environment, have rehabilitated Doho irrigation scheme, Kibimba irrigation scheme, Mubuku irrigation scheme. Most of the big irrigation schemes have been rehabilitated. And these are mainly for growing rice and also maybe for producing seed. Seed beans and maize, they need, adequate moisture to produce good quality seed. But also the small, even where we have a lot of water in the lowland areas, government is helping farmers to organize, to make sure that the water is well channeled and drained, to reduce flooding. So we have a whole ministry, department in the Ministry of Agriculture, but also in the two ministries working on that, collaborating with each other and also working with the development partners.
All right, thanks a bunch, Madam Byarugamba, for joining us this morning. You talk about Uganda being food secure. I hope we are. I hope we can up our game and keep doing a lot better so that our people do not starve and so that we can, why not, be a blessing to the region and to the rest of Africa.
Actually, what we are targeting on now is the export market. The internal market, when you go to our markets, local markets, urban markets, they are teeming with all manner of produce. What we need is just to organize our internal food distribution. But now we are targeting, previously we were targeting the big commercial farmers to produce for export. But we realize that 80% of the farmers are smallholders. So now we are organizing them to make sure that they up their act and make sure that they are producing extra for income. They are able to produce their own food, but we want them now to get enough income from agriculture.
Producing extra for their income and will not take extra time as Morning at NTV has got to proceed. I'll be back very shortly with my opinion. Okay. Now, we are told Uganda produces about 2.3 metric tons of maize, about 900,000 metric tons of beans, and lots of other foodstuffs. And that sounds like music to your ears. I hope it does. But look, we have got places in this country that have got plenty. Many times they do throw away food that has gotten rotten, and there are others that are starving. That, brings to mind many issues. Infrastructure, which is not very well put in place to ensure that we can have this food transferred to these are the areas that are suffering as they should not be suffering, since we've got plenty of food in this country. So I do hope we can all pull our heads together and find a way around this. Uganda should become absolutely food secure so we can, in many ways, ameliorate the region. And why not Africa as a whole? It is something that we can do. It is something that we should do. People will always eat food, so you can be sure that our food will always have a market available for it. Enough said. That's the big story for this morning. Morning at NTV continues. Do stay with us.
What's that?
That document.
Oh, that. Just some business.
I came to apologize. I have no right to interfere in your lives.
I've eliminated the only evidence that links me to Ivan Chinawa's death.
But you didn't have to kill another person.
It's not like I've got anything to hide, Nene. Just go ahead.
Victoria, how is it like to work for Miles Vilagazi?
Blood seemed to matter not.
Blood?
Yeah, blood.
I'm responsible for your father's death.
Aro, give me 5 stress, 3 gonorrhea.
Kale muli wano, you think you've brought campasas? Omwana yena sobola gamba super deep. Si miaka jafe.
I'm like, I like my swag too. So what about it? Then she was like, I also like your accent. That village accent. Now.
Okay, why didn't you when you got political Tayakan, Homozanga Nakajawa?
Katina Kambuza, why are you crying?
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover. Put that in Kiprochichi's accent.
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover.
Mikwano gyaffe bana NTV ate naddala mu bannaamu muli gw'emizannyo muli gw'ebyemizannyo gukomyewo 2:14 ate mutya kati ate gukyusiza n'obudde kati gwa 7 kitundu gwali gwa 9 ne mugugoberera ne tusanyuka kati gubongereddeko wano malya g'ebyemisana awo ose tugubatayize gubaleetire buli kintu kyonna kalonda erina ebyemizannyo omuli gw'ebyemizannyo mupya 2:14 isima waali alagira Argentina yenjo mukubire eddiba lye omukwano kujja kukomawo ku muli gw'emizannyo naye kasita kinatuuka eri bano ba Messi okulumba abalenzi baffe ba Thiago Silva awo tewali mukwano omuli gw'ebyemizannyo 2:14 president.
Everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for their NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admire the President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fiscal code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only 2 individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
Kampala has been voted in the past as one of the favorite cities for tourists, one of the most peaceful cities. That is something that is changing.
Kale Kaihura, the Inspector General of Police, and President Yoweri Museveni, their alliance, they can only crack down or stop individual strikes and individual demonstrations. But I don't think they can stop the growth of militancy.
No holds barred.
Besigye and Lukwago have particular grievances against the government, some legitimate, some misguided. What should the police do? Of course, the police has to intervene, A, to protect the power of President Yoweri Museveni and the NRM from disruption by Besigye and Lukwago, but B, also, never forget this, to protect those ordinary people whose property gets destroyed.
I want to ask that many think that they've actually been frustrated.
Opposition parties in Africa do not tend to be constructed around policy differences. FDC lacks a glue to hold its coalition of different power-hungry individuals together.
Incisive.
You see, the NRM is more divided internally than the FDC. The advantage with the NRM is it has political power.
Analytical.
I think that one of the best organized political parties in Uganda is the PPP, the People's Progressive Party with Ansari. This idea that everybody is telling around the world that Africans are poor and they cannot contribute to their own political and social emancipation is crap. In fact, I think that the opposition parties in Uganda have to win an election in an unfair and unleveled ground.
Newsnight with Andrew Mwenda.
Father, I no go stop to the singing.
No problem. Keep singing. This singing will put you in trouble very soon.
You won't believe it's the boy's father that inflicted such injury on him just because he stole 50 naira. 50 naira for that matter. That man should be arrested. Oh, how I wish I could just see that man and give him a piece of mind. Abigail, I don't care if you're chatting with Barack Obama. When you're at work, you learn how to detach yourself from that phone else to get you into trouble. Whatever. I mean, you should be happy that a pilot is asking your friend out.
My brother, I learned that 3 armed robbers tried to rob a man as he came out of the bank at the junction before the express.
Don't try to be the hero.
You won't kill me. Do you know how long I've been waking you up quietly and you refuse to wake?
Now you can't interrupt someone. I'd like to pray with you, nurses, being the vessels that the Almighty God has been using to heal his people.
Okay. Can someone please talk to me? What is going on?
Who is she?
See, I hate cheating in my life. I hate cheating, and nothing will make me have 50 kobo to that money I already get you.
Running out of airtime can happen to anyone. The next time you recharge, simply dial *161# to get going again.
On the next episode of
very early days, obviously, don't want to blow out too much steam because it is 5 rounds, and you know, as the rounds go on, you do get more tired. So
nice body kick from him, though.
Great.
Thinking about what's the throw. This is a 3-minute round contest for the world title.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian
A very good morning to you wherever you are joining us from. Thank you so much. If you're in your office, if you're at home, if you're on the computer, you know, just streaming live, youtube.com/NTV Uganda/live. It's a morning show, hottest ticket this morning. And I'm telling you, in this kind of weather, all you need is someone to help you start your day in a perfect way. And that's what we are doing. Before the break, we had Beatrice Byarugaba, who is a commissioner in charge of crop production, and we're looking at Uganda's food security. Do you think actually this is true now that they say that we are food secure with famine and hunger and all this stuff happening? Is this what is the correlation between the production of food in the villages and also the consumption? Joel Senyonyi talking some very, very great points there. And a couple of things that they noted. Beatrice Byarugaba saying, we have been tasked to put up food reserves to cater for the deficiencies. And of course, this has been a conversation that has been going on for a long time. Food reserves, we will wait to see them in picture. She also said, whenever you travel abroad, we are constantly eating GMOs that these people have adopted to make sure that they have food security. And we always get food from other regions that have surplus to help us balance. And I know in a couple of regions no longer produce matoke or Irish. We're seeing a shift in that. Agriculture is promising since farmers are ready to get machinery to excavate their own water. And we are looking at using technology that can increase productivity in agriculture. That is Beatrice Byarugaba. Get onto Twitter and let us know what you think about this. Do you think Uganda is actually food secure? And how can we restore the fact that we were once called the food basket of Africa? How can we make sure that we sustain or restore this? Now, Mabel is standing by at the NTV studios. Mabel, what is the feedback on Facebook?
Well, the feedback on Facebook, I'll come to that right after these birthday messages. We have Lord James Blythe. Some of you may not actually know him, but James Blythe is a distinguished CEO, and he has had a distinguished career as a CEO and a director of a couple of companies, including National Westminster Bank, Cadbury's, Diageo, Boots, and Schweppes, all in the UK. He turns 66 today, and I'm sure most of us will recognize this gentleman. Enrique Iglesias turns 39 today, son of Julio Iglesias. He holds the record of having the most songs to ever top the Hot Latino Songs chart, and is currently topping the charts at the moment. He says, I wouldn't change anything. I've made mistakes, but thanks to those mistakes, I've learned. And before we get to your messages, I came across this and I thought this is interesting. Michelle Obama here showing her support for the Boko Haram, her support for the girls who have been abducted by the Boko Haram insurgents in Nigeria. This is in addition to our picture here of NTV news reporters Gertrude, Florence, Ingrid and Sheila as well. Now, on to your messages today regarding food security. We have Walker Ronnie saying, people are dying of hunger in some villages, yet the government insists we have enough food. Wizweka says, the agriculture you're talking about is for the rich. What about the poor? Tulima bya kulya. No land. And I think he has put it very well. And another message coming in from Ashraf. He says, as we think about agriculture being our backbone, farmers have really utilized this opportunity, but still went on to neglect regions which are facing scarcity of food crops, hence resorted to the exportation of these food crops. Please keep your feedback coming in. We like to know what you think about the topics we have been discussing. And now on the big story, we had Ronnie saying, how can they say that we are food secure, yet the supply is still very low? And to some other messages here regarding the press review, someone says, Chimba Tony says, hope Uganda is really hunger-free. I think people don't believe that we are actually hunger-free. Someone saying, good morning, Joel. Welcome back, Brian. I hope you're okay. You look okay. I doubt you were actually sick. And we have Mugenyi Macroni saying, Naye Joel is a man of ladies. Woman Mebo High. And other people saying, Brian looks very smart today. Thank you for all your comments. We love them. And now I hand you over to Brian for today's HTC moment.
Well, thank you so much, Mabel. And we're getting very excited about today's topic because most of us were raised in a generation where it had to be the belt or the belt. And now that parents are coming up with new ways of disciplining their children, we'll be looking at that later in the show with Patricia Rutiba. Now, the HTC moment, of course, we are going to draw on Monday, but another opportunity for you if you have not answered the question, name the model of the HTC that will be launched at the UEFA Champions League finals. Name the model of HTC that will be launched at the UEFA Champions League finals. Send your answer and your correct name to 6565. Good luck. Now, in a generation where all of us might have faced harsh or less, for lack of a better word, politically correct ways of disciplining. Now, the generation has changed where parents found new ways of instilling discipline to their children, but also if you discipline a child that is not yours, you're likely to go to prison. This morning, Patricia Rutiba, an architect and a mother of 3, will be helping us how you can discipline children the right way. Coming up on Everyday Life.
Everyday Life is brought to you by...
And we are HTC.
Good morning, Patricia. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, Brian.
You're an architect, you're a mother of 3. How do you do this, first of all?
Well, it's been an amazing journey, I must say, but it's worth it because balancing has always been the challenge of a modern woman. But I remember in the early years, before all my children went to school, I used to do my architectural practice from home.
Wow.
Yes, so that I could be around them. And then later on, when they all went into school, that's when I actually went into formal practice with them.
So you didn't do what most women do, they quit their job and then stay home?
Well, no, at some point, they were all in school and I was sitting at home and I asked myself, what is this?
What am I doing here?
Yeah, so I had to get back to work.
I don't like a woman that does not work, so yeah. That was a smart move. Well, this morning we're looking at disciplining children, and you know, sometimes I find parents, now that I have my own son, when he does something and I get annoyed, I'm thinking to myself, now what will I do to this boy when he grows up? Or he does something and I'm like, I can't even do anything because I'm probably doing some of the things he's doing right now. I get loud, I shout. So I don't know what I'll do when he has come of age. But what, in your experience, have you found some of the reasons that make it hard for parents now to discipline their children?
I think that first of all, the examples we've had in terms of discipline, sometimes we don't necessarily have children when we are ready, and then also the examples we've seen have not really guided us. So one of the ways that I've been challenging myself, and we've been challenging ourselves as a couple, I'm married to Mr. Daniel Rutiva, and we agree on all these basic principles. We decided that as much as we needed to be good parents, we needed to put an investment in that by making sure we have mentor couples whose children we see and say, those children are well behaved. So we talk to these people and say, these children are older than ours. You've gone before us. Can you tell us what you've done? Sometimes we read a lot of books, and when there are parenting seminars and things like that, we want to attend because we've put so much effort in our careers. When there's a CPD, continuous professional development, you go there. When there's a conference, you go. When you need to do a master's, you do it. But when it comes to parenting, we are not investing, and that is dangerous. We need to make time to learn how to deal with these issues. If we don't, we'll be shooting in the dark.
Why is it that, for example, now we have, right in the past when we were growing up, a stranger would punish you.
Yes.
And it was okay.
Yeah.
What has changed now? Because I'm sure, Patricia, if a stranger disciplines your children, there will be fire on the mountain right now.
Yeah.
What has changed now?
I think the concept of a whole village raising a child was very critical those days. It's like you're not the only one raising your children. Even your neighbors, even your the children's teachers, all of them saw the collective responsibility of raising children. And in a sense, they were very right, because my children may be brought up straight, but if the children in the neighborhood are crazy, they might actually influence them in the opposite direction.
Right.
So in a sense, we need to have that collective responsibility, but not to go overboard. Meaning, if we are going to do it together as a community, we have to have agreed standards of disciplining these children.
Agreed punishments.
Punishments and training, because discipline is not just about punishment, and that's the mistake we make. We think discipline is, you've done this, I'm going to beat you up. You've done this, time out. You've done this. No, discipline is actually forming a disciple, which includes training, mentoring, teaching, and punishment is a last resort to rebellion.
Patricia, some of us have turned out the way we are because punishment was number one.
On the list.
We stopped doing some things because we knew punishment was number one. Mentoring, we have learned mentoring now. Is that practical enough for now? The kids, because I see the kids right now are even more crazy than us.
Yes. I think we've got things mixed up in a sense. I remember we had to agree with my husband because he came from a background where they would explain, they would talk about things. And I came from a background where they would explain while beating you. Then many people, maybe like you, came where they first beat you.
They first beat me,
then they tell you this is Then others, they beat you and you keep wondering, why was I beaten? That's the worst case. So it's something that we need to crystallize. That's why we need to learn a lot. Right. Parenting is a learning experience. You can make mistakes, but mistakes should be a learning point so that you get better. Because the mentoring bit is that children learn things better when they're actually following an example. There's a teenager who once told the parent that you people want us to be angels, but when we see the things you do, you are the ones who are, yelling, screaming. You're the ones who are walking around with suspicious girls. You're the ones who are drinking yourselves crazy, and you expect us to do the opposite. We are copying you. So you should practice what you preach.
What, in your opinion, is excessive discipline? And later we'll look at ways in which, acceptable standards of discipline. But what should a parent never do as a way to discipline their child?
Excessive discipline is discipline that is not related to the crime. For example, it's like getting a gun and shooting a fly. Someone breaks a flask by accident. Okay, it's an accident. Maybe they were careless in handling, but it was an accident. Yeah. They didn't mean it. And then you go and then you whip them senseless, or remove a privilege that is really dear to their hearts, or you go and beat them up until they are semi-conscious because it has happened. You should measure that the crime should be proportionate.
A child has not washed utensils. You left home and said, wash up. When I come back, you come back and those utensils have been there the whole day. But the child is playing.
Now that is where you need to sit them down and tell them what you've done is wrong. Because you see, once you speak and they know what they are supposed to do, next time you act. Many of us parents have become too soft. You speak, and then you speak, and then they just know that I just have 15 minutes of a lecture and everything will be okay. Right. I'll go back to what I normally do. Right. But if they know that once you've spoken, the next time they are going to face a disciplinary action, either spanking or, having that outing which they were looking forward to cancelled, there are some of those things that will really hurt them and show them that, what you did was terrible. Don't do it again. Speak once, then action, and be consistent. If the first time you spoke and then acted, then the next time they do something, you speak.
Papa is like that.
Yeah, easy.
Okay. Yeah. Do you believe in spanking a child?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
so
my
so
children,
that means you were spanked while you were a child?
Yes, I was. But I believe in also measuring it proportionately and then explaining why before I do it. There's a scripture which I gave my children about foolishness being bound up in the heart of a child, and the rod of correction will drive it away. Foolishness is bound up. It's in Proverbs, I think chapter 15, verse 22. But it says foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, okay? And the rod of correction, which is chivoko, will drive it away. They even know it. They say, now this foolishness, scripture. Yes. This foolishness,
I should get that, and the moment they hear foolishness,
they just know it's coming. Okay. But it's not an everyday thing. It has to be something that comes, because if they get used to it, if they get used to spanking, they become immune. Yes. If you do it all the time, I remember we would even pack, you pack your clothes so that you don't feel the pain. Yes,
and underwear.
Just not this, yesterday I messed up, today they are going to finish me. I better
load.
Load.
Right.
So they get used to it if you overdo it. That's why it has to be, meted out at the right time.
What about grounding, Simanya grounding, timeout? I find those too Western and too, I don't know what it's
too unserious.
It's too unserious. You tell me you're grounded, it's okay. Let me be grounded.
Let me be grounded and watch TV the whole day.
Yes, does it communicate?
Well, I think it works for very young children because I was shocked when we were learning about discipline, and someone explained that discipline starts the moment a child starts asserting themselves and rebelling. And it can be as early as 6 months or 1 year. But don't mix discipline up with punishment. You take an example of a child who you put on the ground to play. They pick something dirty and put it in their mouth.
Yes.
So one mother says, take it out, take it out. This is a child who's around 1 year.
They don't understand what
They don't understand what you're saying. The moment you turn, they'll get it and put it back inside.
Yes.
So they now, this one you have to have action. You pick this child up because they've been enjoying playing, and then put them in a constrained environment. That's like naughty corner, or a place where they won't be able to play with what they were playing with. So when they stop alarming and making noise, you put them back with their toys. If they do it again, you put them back in that prison, quote unquote. After some time they realize, every time I do this, I miss my toys. Yes. So I think I should stop, because the actions speak. The words will not. You can talk until the cows come home. It won't work.
I think yesterday I might have disciplined my son. He's 10 months, and I think I was too tired and he refused to sleep. So what I did, I took him and we watched TV together. And before he knew it,
he had blacked out.
Man, he had blacked out. He kept looking at me, and I think he was thinking, dude, I want to sleep. Don't make me watch TV. So I just told him we're going to watch TV together
until you sleep.
You get tired.
Yeah.
And I think he got the point, and before he knew it, was like,
and then
just blacked out.
So it's like that.
I have a question. When it comes to, you said you talk about your you and your husband. Some partners, one of them is hesitant to discipline the child.
Yeah, that's
what do you do then?
I think there's a reason why opposites attract, because in most marriages there's one who's always trigger happy, ready to cane, and then there's one who wants to sit and talk. And then what you do is you agree on a balanced approach, and then agree on it together, because if the children know that if we want this, all we have to do is go to daddy, mommy will not allow.
Yes.
Or all we have to do is go to mommy, she's the soft target. Then you're going to have problems, because you need to agree that, you know what, when it comes to making decisions about some of these privileges and things they want, we shall consult before we give permissions. So it is something that you need to agree on together and be able to approach it together, you know. It shouldn't be one person doing all the punishment. Otherwise you will become the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should be balanced, you know. If this time she did something wrong, daddy's girl, and mommy did the punishing, the next time she does something wrong, daddy should do it. So that she doesn't think, oh, mommy hates me, but daddy is my buddy. Or daddy hates me, but mommy is here.
I am told you should never discipline children in anger.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say this because we are human. And most times when you're angry, you lash out. It's not controlled. Actually, you should first calm down before you start issuing punishments or spanking or whatever, because it can turn from spanking into abuse. So some people, you know, in foreign countries, they've now labeled the whole thing abuse. Why? Because many parents do it when they are angry, and they end up damaging either the child's self-esteem or the child's physical body. Even words, you know, words can't be taken back. Yeah. Once they've gone out, they've gone out. Yes. So when you're angry and you're talking to your child, you can say terrible things that can destroy them forever. We have adults who are walking around with deep-seated wounds. And when you do some probing, you discover his father said something when he was just 8. Yes, you'll never amount to anything. You're hopeless. What's wrong with you? And the guy said it when he was angry. He's even forgotten about it. Yes. But the person who receives it will never forget. So always cool off before you take disciplinary action or start lecturing, because you might say terrible things and destroy the esteem of your child.
I have seen this in some homes, and you know, probably this is going to be my last question. Step parents disciplining stepchildren, and they say you're not allowed to do that. Those are not your children. You should never discipline them. Where do you even draw the line? Because you're literally disciplining children that are not yours as a step-parent.
I think if you love, you will discipline. And discipline, again, is about empowering a child to be able to govern themselves. Right. That's what discipline is about. So it involves training, it involves teaching, it involves mentoring, it involves punishment. when they exceed their boundaries. And even setting the boundaries. You've seen these bridges where there is nothing on the side. People are reluctant to cross. Why? Because there is no barrier on the side to protect you. So you're afraid to go onto it. So a stepchild and your own child should both recognize that the reason why I'm putting boundaries is for your protection. If they are not there, you will fall over the edge and you won't even know. So if a parent is issuing the same discipline to their own child as they are to a stepchild, if they are training both, if they are teaching both, if they are mentoring both, and they are punishing both, and it is out of love, then that should be recognized for what it is. It's a balanced way of parenting. But if they discipline the other one and their own are, babied, mollycoddled, handled with kid gloves, then of course it's being unfair.
Right.
You have to treat them the same way.
What are the acceptable punishments, standard punishments? For children? Things where, okay, when I do this, I've not really crossed the line.
Yeah.
It's acceptable. People won't say, what? That's child abuse. Yes.
Yeah. I think, first of all, you have to be age appropriate, and the punishment has to be appropriate to the crime. But also, when they are very young, those are timeouts and denying them those things that they like to do are appropriate punishments. But then when people say you will go without food for 2 days, that is child abuse. You tell a child that you're not going to eat the whole day, you're not going to eat for 2 days, that is abuse. If you beat a child until they are, you beat them and then they get a problem in their body, they get these horrible bruises or they get these broken bones, that kind of beating, that is child abuse. If you use derogatory words that demean someone and make them feel less than a person, that is abuse.
Right.
Yeah. So it can be verbal, it can be physical, it can be, those deprivations. That is abuse.
Wow. Well, Martin Tege on Facebook saying it's simple. Spare the rod and spoil
that child.
And for the rest of you, if you are thinking about disciplining your children, well, this morning I hope you have learned something. Patricia, who is doing it correctly. I once got a book on parenting. Read this stuff because it helps. It helps you. And also, we all know that parents, there's a lot of favoritism. We all know that some of us are not liked because you misbehave. What about for single parents as we wrap this up? What advice do you have for single parents?
Single parents have a big challenge because their balancing has to be even more delicate. Now, if it's a single mom and you have boys, and this is what I want to close with, because boys need the strong arm of a father.
Yeah.
At some point in their lives. When they are babies, they may rely a lot on a mother, but as they are growing, they need the strong voice of a father.
Yeah.
I can be at home, I tell my children something, and that soft voice, and they're like, wait, mommy, give us 5 more minutes. But daddy will come and speak once.
We need to go.
And they will go. So if you're a single parent, it's good to get a father figure who you can call upon. This young man is acting up. Come and talk to him. Come and spend some time with him. Take him to your place of work. Take him to see what you do. Let him spend some time with your family, just so that they can see what a real man is supposed to be like. A real man is disciplined. A real man is upright. A real man says this and he means it, So single parents need to get other people involved. They need it. They need it. And people are available. You don't have to carry that whole burden alone. Yeah.
Well, Patricia, thank you so much. Very
Thank
exciting.
you too, Brian.
Do you also design houses?
Yes, I do.
Hey,
Yes.
I want like a penthouse.
A penthouse?
Yes.
I can do that.
We should be talking business. Joel said you're hooking me up. Thank you so much. Isma, the Red Pepper this morning saying that this young boy might be threatening Rooney's position. Is that true?
Not at all. James Wilson had a very fantastic game the other night against Hull City, but I don't think he will threaten Wayne Rooney at all. People are excited so easily. I wouldn't go to the Bernabeu in a game between Man United and Real Madrid in a semi-final quarter-final of the Champions League and choose any player in the world besides Ronaldo and Messi who isn't Wayne Rooney. There isn't a chance that he will be threatened. Not now, at least not now. But then, I'll also be telling you about why I would have had a mortgage on Edin Dzeko scoring last night as Manchester City put for past Aston Villa. There's a lot of chaos within the Cranes camp. Players are missing because this is not an international date when Uganda travel to Madagascar. And then this morning, Roy Hibbert of the Indiana Pacers finally had his best game of the playoff series. That and more.
Well, stand by. I'll be joined by Mabel and Isma for the sports update. Good morning.
Everyday Life was brought to you by...
And we are HTC. Every idea we have begins with you. The way you connect.
Good morning.
How you browse. How you share. And how you interact with the world around you.
Your relationship with your God is the most important thing.
Have a company of people who have got a similar mindset.
How do you want people to think, feel, and act after your talk? In other words, what's your objective?
You inspire everything. Because in the end, innovation doesn't really matter unless it does something that really matters to you. And we are HTC.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Running out of airtime can happen to anyone. The next time you recharge, simply dial *161# to get going again.
On the next episode of...
Very early days, obviously, don't want to blow out too much steam because it is 5 rounds and, you know, as the rounds go on, you do get more tired, so...
Nice body kick from him, though. Great. Thinking about what's the throw. This is a 3-minute round contest for the world title.
I'm going to blow your mind and I'm going to twist your taste buds. The flavors are already coming together. I can feel them. Very lovely, very appetizing, very healthy. Remember, the way you see it, the way you like it, is the way you get it from my kitchen to your kitchen.
I was going to my hall, someone came from my back and was...
How? Tugenda okwebaka ekiro. Yanga mwami omanyi? Webakeko nange omulundi gw'ogusembayo.
I went to the nurse and I asked why. Why is it that our father is negative and for us we are positive?
Every time I find a story of assault of one person to another, I get disturbed.
Mwayombye ekiro lwaleeta suzeewo lwe bakwokezza. Naze poza kimu nti mujja wange yanjokezza.
Kino ekyafa kino kyali kyakulira muno mu lubuto.
The Irene I know just loves music and loves to sing. I've never seen her even smoke a cigarette.
The days of legal trade in slaves are history, following its abolition in the 1800s.
They tie you like this,
That's when I started getting past.
Everybody has a story, but yours will only become our story when you share it.
It's still raining cats and dogs at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel, but it's so amazing that we are still here, and that's what we promised to do. 15 on to 9 o'clock. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very good. Good to see you healed.
I'm not healed, actually.
I need your witch doctor because something small put me down for about 2 weeks. So
I'm still down. I have a feeling the next 15 minutes I'll press the reset button. So. Yeah. But I had a very interesting conversation with Patricia on disciplining children. Do you believe in spanking?
Not exactly. For example, you can only relate to the things you know very well, and I can probably most
now your wife is going to be spanking your children.
I can only relate to my parents because the only parents I know probably most are your own parents, what they would do. Situations. How much was I spanked? Very little. Very little. Very little. Negligible. Every time.
Never, you just look spanking.
I'm the firstborn. And I was beaten. You know, sometimes you even think, but is this woman my mother? Really? Hello, mommy. I know she watches the show, but you know when you're beaten and you're like, I'm adopted.
The fondest memory I have of my mother beating me, she beat me so much that I used all the words to refer to mother, that mean woman. She beat me and I said, Mama, Ankuma, because I was screaming for help. And she asked me, am I your mother? So I said, what should I do? I said, oh, Mukazi Ankuma. She asked me, Nimukazi. I said, I didn't know what. She kept asking me with every word and I just gave up. I think
I was too stubborn to scream, most of it.
Oh, some of those things were too hot. The sand on the ice was too hot. Well, if you discipline your children, especially using a cane, I know you will straighten up some of us, you know, are like this because of that. Well, Isma, let's talk sport now. We are definitely being, for lack of a better word, spanked as far as Uganda Cranes is concerned. Players are missing. We have a game, well, next week.
Yeah, next week in Madagascar.
What is this going on? Is this the usual confusion?
It's not normally disorganized because this is a totally new thing. Yesterday the team was supposed to start training in Nambole. They didn't because Nambole management and FOF have not yet sat down to solve how they could pay the areas 111 million. But then, if that wasn't as bad, now missing players was the tale of the FOFA press conference yesterday. Mitch announcing that Robert Odonkara, the goalkeeper, got injured playing for his club St. George, I think on Monday. And then Dennis Onyango, he's playing the Nedbank Cup with Bidfest VC's club in South Africa, and also wouldn't be playing. Tony Maweje, his club Hogesan, wants him to be playing at around the same time. And then there is Eunice Sentamutu. So there's about five players or so who should be missing from this game. But I think at this point you can hardly blame FOFA because CAF is the biggest culprit in this.
Yeah.
They are holding games on a date that isn't an official FIFA date. That means that players are not obliged to come and play for their countries at that point. If it's an international FIFA date, no club can withhold a player from the national team.
Because I was about to ask you, you know, this whole confusion about players not playing for the national team, aren't they obligated to play?
They are obligated if it's an international FIFA date, and it isn't. This isn't an international FIFA date. That's why you see across the world on the same weekend, that is May 18, when Uganda playing Antananarivo, Arsenal will be playing Hull City because the club football still goes on until according to FIFA. So probably CAF would have synchronized their calendar beat with the FIFA one. I think it's going to be a problem across Africa. It won't be only Uganda. Probably in the days to come, I'll go and look up a lot of information what other African countries are doing, especially the ones playing the preliminaries. It's going to be a problem across African countries. They can't get most of their players who are playing in Europe or playing in leagues like South Africa that follow the FIFA calendar.
Right.
Well, in basketball, away from Donald Sterling, I'm just so amazed by that. But we see Indiana and Oklahoma tying in their respective series this morning. Are we going to see a Game 7?
There were, of the 5 of the 8 series in the first round went into Game 7, so you wouldn't be too wrong to bet against these 2 semi-finals going into the Game 7. Because this morning in the Eastern Conference, the Indiana Pacers did beat up on the Washington Wizards by 86-82. Roy Hibbert scoring 28 points there. His biggest game since the postseason started. He was very poor in the opener against the Atlanta Hawks, where he was irrelevant, I would say, the Indiana Pacers center. But this morning turns the clock. So you get the feeling that Wizards will continue winning, then Indiana will win a game or two, and that will be looking like Game 7. But one series that looks like will go to Game 7 is LA Clippers against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because the Thunder this morning came from a game down to beat up on the Clippers, 112-101. Russell Westbrook with a triple-double. He's third in the playoffs because they are 31 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds. And then Kevin Durant, just after being named MVP yesterday, he responded with 32 points.
With a very moving speech.
Yeah.
Very moving speech.
I remember at the start of the year, he gave an interview to Sports Illustrated, one of the biggest magazines in sport, where he said he's tired of being number 2 in his life. He's been number 2 to LeBron James in the MVP voting for 4 successive seasons. He was number 2 in high school when they reached the final. They finished second. He was number 2 in the draft into the NBA. He's been to the finals in the NBA, and still his team, Oklahoma City Thunder, came second. And he said he's tired of being number 2. So that's where I think his speech comes from.
Oh, honoring his mother, saying mother is the MVP. In fact, not him.
Not him. Yeah, really, but that performance, he could have had a triple-double too, because he had 32 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. And the OKC are now a game apiece with the LA Clippers. That for me is Game 7 written all over it.
Well, I guess it's going to be like it was in the first round. Now, talking football, Man City exploded. Is this the final nail in the coffin? Have they sealed it?
They sealed the point against West Ham, but you'd be such a fool to bet against them winning now. Because I think in the weekend when Liverpool threw out those points against Chelsea and then against Crystal Palace on Monday night, probably that was the day when it was sealed. But probably Liverpool fans have still held this hope, and many will think West Ham could go and do the business. But I thought that was a nervous performance from Man City, especially in the first half. When that first goal wasn't coming, I think there was a bit of doubt amongst Man City players until Edin Dzeko got the goal, and I could have bet a mortgage on him. I just knew Edin Dzeko was going to score at some point, and then he gets the first, gets the second, looks very easy, and then Yaya Toure goes and scores a contender for goal of the season, running from just inside his own half past about 3-4 players, and then shoots as hard as he's not been running at all, and Man City get the 3 points. But very tough 3 points. I thought Villa set up the right way defensively. They had about a line of 5, a curtain of 5 inside their box, and then another line of 4 just prevent Man City from getting to the box. And I think in those 60 minutes or so, many Liverpool fans should have been hoping that City will see will see this through, but they didn't. And you've got to give it to City. They are now 2 points clear. They haven't been top of the league this season for so long, because they've been top of the league for only 11 days. Arsenal have been top for weeks. Liverpool have, so have Chelsea. 11 days and they could be champions on Sunday.
Life is not fair. Life is not fair. But moving on, Swansea have got a new coach in the form of Gary Monk. Is that a right move?
I think it's a huge gamble. He's only 35. He's the youngest manager in the Premiership. You don't go and appoint 35-year-old managers. He came in as a replacement for Michael Laudrup during the season as an interim. And it's only because he's been with Swansea City for that long. He was with them when they were playing in League 2, and they got promoted to League 1. He became captain. They came to the Championship. They got promoted to Premier League for the very first time because Gary Monk was there. Okay, he saved them from relegation. But long term, maybe not. He's going to have 3 years to put up a project that will make Swansea competitive. And ever since they won the Capital One Cup the other season, they haven't been the same team. He came in as a firefighter, saved them from relegation, but I have my reservations. He's 35. It's going to be a very, very tough job. Yeah. It's going to be a very tough job because Swansea have had a very poor season by their standards. Okay, it's not being helped by the fact that their best player, who is Mitchell, has been out for the entire season. But for Gary Monk to come in and patch up a few things in about 15 games, that's very easy. Probably many people can come in as firefighter. Yes. But 38 games where you want Swansea to be competitive, probably they would have gone for someone more experienced. But sometimes you've got to appoint one of your own. Gary Monk is as Swansea as any of those Swans who show up at Liberty Stadium. And probably they're appointing a fan, the way probably Liverpool one day appoint Steven Gerrard as their coach. It's something like that. And I get the feeling, because he has the feeling and the embodiment of a fan, and the work ethic is very visible in the games he's been in charge. That's what Swans are going for.
Well, I guess that's what Man U wanted in the person of Ryan Giggs, who literally has the DNA of Man U and might deliver. Well, quickly, Real Madrid. Let's go put Arsenal. They're looking for something.
Somehow, I thought, and I said it here yesterday, that it's going to be a very tough game. Real Valladolid don't represent the kind of teams that Madrid will struggle to beat. But I've seen Valladolid this season. They beat up on Barcelona by a goal to nil. And when that memory kept ringing before the kickoff, I kept on feeling, okay, this is going to be very hard for Real Madrid. Then, after 8 minutes, Ronaldo limps off. It gets tougher. But thereafter, Sergio Ramos scores, and it's his 5th goal in the last 4 games, and he's a defender. Then you get the feeling that Real Madrid will just do enough. Then when you thought they were going to do enough, somehow they did get that 2nd goal, and Real Madrid get an equalizer after the 90 minutes in injury time. And that means that Real Madrid have thrown a huge opportunity to win the league. This means that if Atletico go ahead and win their game, which is the next one, over the weekend, Atletico will be champions before they even play Barcelona on the final weekend.
Which they need.
Yeah, which they need. They haven't won the league title.
I think I'm supporting Atletico now.
You should. Everyone should. Every neutral. If you're not a Barcelona or Real Madrid person, I think Atletico for
Atletico.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a Getafe fan.
They are going to be relegated. They're 3rd from bottom.
I'm Atletico. Atletico. Well, Isma, tomorrow you should tell us about Brazil. And, you know, we're running out of time, so you'll tell us about Brazil. Are they also ready for the World Cup? You know, Brian the other day was telling us, FIFA must make sure the World Cup is ready. But we are seeing...
And in Brazil, no other country.
Stadia, not ready, everything is just... So you should be telling us about that tomorrow. And for the rest of you, Isma will be on at 1:30 p.m. with Lumansi and Alan. And of course, Sports Bar, 10:30 p.m. every Monday, coming to you live from Club Silk. Let's head for your African proverb before we let you go. Well, maybe, what does it say?
The African proverb today says, he who has power and falls will be bruised. Sent in from Mark Mubanjizi, an Ethiopian proverb. He who has power and falls will be bruised.
I almost thought he who has power does not Ali. Wins the power.
But when you have power, do you even fall?
No.
Would you get bruised when you fall? It's very confusing, by the way. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it's quite...
No, but if you think of someone like Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi. You remember him with his golden gun?
Yeah.
He had power for about 30 years.
41 years as president of Libya. Not president, actually, leader.
Yeah. You think of Saddam Hussein, they had power, very powerful. But when they fell, I think those ones were bruised by the rocks. They were literally bruised.
He was eaten by the rats and cockroaches. The same probably like...
that makes sense.
That makes sense. Even Saddam Hussein, you know, he was picked from just a tiny hole in Tikrit, his birthplace. It was
Bagbo in an underwear.
Yeah, but recently I was watching a program on Al Jazeera about the French interference in West Africa, and I think Laurent Gbagbo was just a victim of Western politics at the end of the day.
And all of them. Savimbi was a victim. He was gunned down.
No, but Savimbi came out of the bush, remember, at some point, and stood for an election, lost the election, decided to go back to the bush. At that point, you get killed.
Yeah.
You get killed. If you offered an olive branch when you've been fighting with these unitary rebels fighting the Angolan government for all that long, if you don't take the chance, then...
So the lesson in this is to let go before you get bruised.
Surely.
I think so. Let go of power. That power is
this a political proverb?
I think it is. But since it comes from Ethiopia, you know, their former Prime Minister Meles Zenawi had this firm grip on power and fought put out the opposition. I love the Ethiopian parliament, by the way. There's only one opposition member of parliament. I would love to be that guy. There's only one. You need to read that story. You'll be amazed. But Meles Zenawi was in power for that long and suffocated everyone from 1990, I think 92, until he died of, I think, brain cancer.
Examples of Charles Taylor.
Yeah.
Hitler. Yeah. But there's a name we don't want to talk about, so let's leave. If you want your program to be profiled on Morning at NTV, please send it to Morning at NTV, our Facebook page, or you can send an SMS to 6565. Alternatively, tweet it at Morning at NTV. We'll definitely profile it for you. The morning show continues with Soul Moment. We'll see you tomorrow. It's time to go and probably add more blankets.
You need a blanket.
Some hot coffee.
You have the best job. You're done with work. It's 9 a.m.
To us from Abulum.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
NTV, turning on your world.
These are the men who cheated death in a blazing train wagon.
I got a room in that wagon where it stays a hall.
Behind me is the spot where over 70 people lost their lives.
The widows